In this video, we will learn some basics about props and state, which is common in React and React Native since both are React framework only. So any sort of data on which some action might occur is managed by props and state. Both holds the data, but in some different ways. So let's start by some concept of props and state. So what is props? Props is sort of properties, and props should not be changed. It's immutable. So by the rule, we should not change props value. So props allows us to create a reusable components. So any component can receive props from their parent. Components will not modify these props. The basic idea behind props is to allow you to create a component which can be reused in many places. Hence, it helps us to create reusable code or components. So mostly it's used with presentational component. We will see it in an example. Now let's see some concept of state. So state is a variable which is managed by particular component. So state is mutable. Hence we can change the value in the state. So it's a data structure for storing and managing the information about the components, and it can change over the time based on some behavior or inputs given by the user. Let's see some example of state and props. So in previous video, we have created a basic application for Hello World. So we'll start from there only. So where we have a view and text component, and inside text we have written Hello World. Now let's create a new folder for modules, and inside that we'll create a new file, greet user. So this is so here we will define our here we will define our presentational component, which will get the property as an input, and it will just show the data in for presentational view. So let's create a function using ES6 expression. So constant greet user, which will accept a parameter as props. Then we will return the view from this component. So inside view we will have a text. So inside view we will have a text component where we'll just hardcode as of now greet user. Then export default greet user, which will allow us to export this component in our apps.js. Let's use the greet user, save it. Then we need to import the greet user function component. Then we will have to import greet user component from modules greet users. So all things are done. So now let's run this project. So Expo will automatically, as soon as we will save the changes, it will automatically refresh the browser. So it was coming as greet user. So now let's modify this and write some dynamic values where we will write welcome, and then from properties we will accept. From properties we will use a property called as name, and from apps we will assign a name to some value. So let's write it code beta. So now let's reload it, and it's coming as welcome code beta. So like this we can have more than one components, and where we will pass different values and properties, and as soon as we will save it, it will write welcome 2021. So like this we can have more than one property as well. So currently we have used name. Let's create a new text and define a message property. So now from parent method, so from now parent component, we have to assign this property as well, message equal to, then we will write welcomes you all. And same for another component also, message. Fantastic here. And let's save it. And as soon as we will save, it will refresh and it will show the latest data. So like this, we can create a props, so which is used for representational purpose only. So we'll just put some comments for our better understanding, used for presentational purpose. So now let's create a new file. We will say user.js, where we will just copy paste the imports, and here we will just here we will create a class component. So in previous we have used a functional components for showing the representational data. So where we have used properties, props, and now we will create a class component, and here we will use a state. So class component should have a render method from where it has to return a view. So let's write it. Let's create first a basic structure where we will just write some dummy text. So hello user. Now let's call this component from parent component, write user, and let's refresh it. And it shows hello user. So now let's comment out one component from greet user. We do not need it. So now let's define some states. So now let's define some state in our class component. We'll create a state object where we will store a user's emotion, where we will say whether user is angry or not. So by default we'll set a value as true. So state is angry to true. So now let's see for some error. Okay, no errors are there. So now let's continue with our further changes. So we'll create a text where we will write currently the user is, and what is the user's emotions, which will come from a state. So we will manage a state, and based on some button clicks or something, based on some button click event, we will maintain the user state, user emotions. So currently user is angry. So let's define a button which will come from React Native package only. So on press we will define our function. So we will set this state to false. So whenever this button will be clicked, we will set the user as false, and as soon as we will click on the button, we will disable the button so that we will not allow user to change the emotions of the user. We can play around with this data. So the above text where we have written currently user is will change based on our button events. So like that only we used to manage our state in React Native or React. So we will give title equal to make user happy, and this title also so based on this title. So currently button is disabled. So let's change this title to dynamic value. So if the state of the user is angry, we will show some different title, and once his state is changed, we will show as user is happy, or user is already happy, or something like that, or make user happy. So if user is angry, we will enable the button saying that make user happy, and once user will click on that button, it will disable and it will go to all user is already happy. let's do it. Yeah. So it is showing currently user is happy, and the button is disabled, showing that user is already happy. So this is how we used to manage our state. So we will put some comment over here also for our better understanding, and we will write managing state of. So we will write managing state of data, or we can write something. So we will write managing state of data. So let's review it. So what we have done just now is we have created a functional component where we have defined where we have given our props as an argument, and we have set some values. We have defined some uh, we have defined some attributes to that property, and from parent component we have sent the attributes to the child component. So child component itself is not defining, or itself is not changing any attributes of the properties. Parent is defining what values need. So parent is defining what values needs to be passed. And in user class we have shown an example of how to manage a state, where we have created a object for state where user is angry, where we are maintaining the user emotions, and on click of button we are changing the state of the user. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.